Today I'm reviewing a keyboard that could possibly change everything for the rest of the year, and it's called the Neo65 by Neo Studios and Owl Lab, who are responsible for incredible offerings like the Jelly Epic and the whole QwertyKeys series. Now I know this whole Budget King spill has begun to sound kind of like a broken record on YouTube by now, considering all the keyboard manufacturers are calling out all the stops when it comes to affordable keyboards. But no, this time, I really mean it. The Neo65 is a tri-mode, non-flex cut, 65% aluminum unibody keyboard with nearly unlimited customization options. With 9 colors, 3 being in E coating, and the others are fully anodized. 5 very high quality weights, and 5 plate options, including carbon fiber and the usual contenders like aluminum, POM, PC, and FR4. Starting at literally $79.99, you can run a plateless build with a brass weight in 2 different mounting styles, one being gummy O-ring mount. Yo, what? I almost breezed right past that. Let's go over the unboxing first, and I'll get back to that in a moment. In the box, you'll receive a carrying case, USB, which will be coiled in the sales version, switch and keycap combo puller, and 2 screwdrivers. There's also a healthy amount of foam included, so you can configure your build to your personal tastes. The 1.6mm PCB comes in all white with the Neo logo right in the middle, and not a flex cut in sight. This one here is the hot swap tri-mode version, which is capable of running multiple layouts including ISO, ANSI, step caps lock, 7U, or 6.25 spacebars, and more. The wired version is going to be the only one with RGB though. I also have the carbon fiber plate, which is on the harder / clackier side of the spectrum when it comes to sound profile, and it's executed pretty nicely. Now, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I truly believe this is the first aluminum gummy O-ring keyboard under $100. Therefore, history has kind of been made. Gummy O-ring mounting style is something that is popularly seen in keyboards like the Bakaneko 65 and even the esteemed Unicorn by Singa KBD. Now looking at it that way, we're sort of dancing in the endgame territory features. For those wondering, O-ring gaskets typically help dampen vibrations from the plate, allowing a slightly lower pitch and soft feel, but it's still typically stiffer than other gasket mounting styles. One thing to note about the O-ring mount though, which is 58 hardness, is that it's only compatible with plate mounted or clip-in stabs. Lucky for you, the official production units will get a set of the Neo stabs included. For my build, I was able to use the TX clip-ins. But apart from that, you can mount the PCB using these gaskets that are also included for a more bouncy typing feel. Lastly, we have some adhesive feet in 2 colors, 1 set of white and 1 set of black. Now let's talk about the design. The design on the Neo65 is actually a treat really. I have here the red option. The anodized finish is flawless, and the back weight, which I have in copper, is pretty exciting to be seen on a 65% in this price range. The angles on the Neo65 are far more shallow than in most boards. And the left and right bezels are pretty thin too. These conscious design choices make it stand out quite a bit, even with the design being mostly minimal. I happen to enjoy the design quite a bit. The blocker is connected solidly to the case, which is in all one piece. And they did a great job in the manufacturing process. The red unit I have here is slightly more vibrant in comparison than what the render looks like, but it worked out in my favor since it's almost a near perfect combo with the keycaps. And it even matches the weight too, man. Sheesh. The switches I'm using here are the new Owl Lab Latte linear switches sent to me by PK Keyboards, just in time. They're factory lubed and tend to sit somewhere a little bit between thock and clack, but I have a full review coming on these soon, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now let's listen to how the Neo65 sounds in a couple different configurations. This board's really nice, and out of all the configurations, I really like the FoamLess and the build with the PE sheet only. With everything all in at once was far too foamy sounding for my liking, but you'll want to play with it to see what you like most. Now the reason why I feel like this board specifically, and others like it, are redefining the entry level is because for a lot of people, there's not really any need to really look further at boards that cost 2 times, 3 times, and even 7 times more than these. A year or two ago, the closest thing you could have gotten to something like this was probably a modded original Tofu 65, and this is far more refined. Now it'd be really cool if they implemented an internal weight as well into the case, but let me simmer down a little bit. This thing is under $100. A couple of things that I took note of though, is that some might find the build process to be a little bit difficult, especially if they've never built a board before. This was mostly referring to figuring out the order of installing the FPC cable, which was a little bit of a hurdle, but just remember to plug it into the PCB first, then run it through the hole out the back to the daughter board. It'll save you a ton of time if you just remember that. I'd love to see if they could find a way to keep the batteries in place when you're taking off the back weight to make customizations to the board. They kind of flop out a little bit too much for my liking, considering how much you have to flip it over back and forth when you're trying to mod it. But honestly, I'm gonna avoid opening it back up since I finally settled on my configuration. And if you've already built a couple boards before, man, this is gonna be a breeze. Now this board can't be 100% perfect, but it sure is close. The customization potential is vast, but it does start to slow down when you start talking about stabilizers, at least in the O-ring config. Like I said though, they provide you with some stabs, which I assume will be on par with OWL stabs, or somewhat similar. I just don't have any to test, so I can't quite say, but all I know is that Neo and QK state that the O-ring mount does not support screw-in stabilizers. I did end up running TX clip-in stabs, which seemed to work, albeit fitting into the case pretty tight, ultimately resulting in a pretty firm typing feel, especially on my carbon fiber plate. It does fit in with some finesse, but on the bright side, it's very snug, so the odds of the plate sliding out are pretty slim. This is a common O-ring quirk in general, so hey. So the PCB has a number of switch locations that vary in direction as you're trying to install your switches. It's not something that's unique to the Neo65, but you definitely want to watch for it to make sure you don't ruin your PCB or break any of your switches pins. So if anybody was kind of curious about why it's set up like that, is because it allows you to run those different layouts that the PCB supports. Though I can kind of see how it is annoying sometimes to kind of, yeah, just be careful. Now a lot of you guys are probably wondering if you should get this or something like the Choice 65 or maybe even the Cycle 7. And truthfully, that's a decision you're gonna have to make yourself pertaining to your layout preference, but I can at least clear a couple things up about the Neo65. And speaking of choosing, the Choice 65 is a beautiful board, but the opportunities for customization with the Neo65 are a little bit harder to deny, and it's even a little bit more affordable depending on your setup. QK has plans of it being an ongoing in-stock release, but time will tell in regards to that. I will be real and say that the Choice 65 does look amazing visually, but QK has built a reputation over time to provide this kind of options and value, so I won't let that take anything major away from the Philosophier tech team. Now when we're talking about the Cycle 7, man, there's a lot that I enjoy about the Cycle 7. Though, the lack of the F-Row leaves me yearning a little bit on a TKL size board. The flex cut plugs are pretty cool, but honestly, I just prefer a solid non-flex cut PCB to start with. And it's also a group buy, so I imagine that it's gonna be a little bit longer waiting period before you get to see it. And the FRL TKL format is something that is so vastly different that it just kind of targets a whole different audience. Maybe that's you, maybe that's not, maybe you get them all. All I know is that if it were me, I'm definitely gonna be grabbing Neo65. In conclusion, it's extremely evident that all you budget keyboard warriors of today will find yourselves with far more keyboard than you did in the past shopping in this price range. If you missed out on boards like the QK65, I strongly advise you jump on the Neo65, especially starting at $79.99. Insane. So the Neo65 is going to be an in-stock sale, which goes live in August 2023, which is pretty much right now. For more specific time period on when it goes live, make sure you check out the description below, man. Thanks for tuning into my review, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel for more keyboard and tech content. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Neo65, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.